Or I thought I would probably do 3 games and stop, but feeling good to head into a fourth, I think. And at that point, it will be too tempting to do the fifth, so maybe I'll get them all done tonight. So, game 4 was Nomad, and Civs basically picking themselves here. We've got Vikings, Persians, Mayans for both teams. Personnel is the same, still on 3v3, which makes me confused because as I keep mentioning, like I swear I saw these games being played with 8 players on the day. I think Dupe, you were in that room, weren't you? So maybe you can confirm if any of these games actually turned into 4v4. But like I said, if there is a 5th game, I think the teams agreed to play Bo5 anyway, so I think there would have been 5 games regardless. Right, Nomad, we've got one type of Nomad that I like to see, where the middle water is not connected to the outside water, because then it's kind of interesting to see where the players dock and whether one team gets one or both areas of water control. X is obviously coming out like crazy at the moment whilst the players communicate their TC and dock positions, so first minute or two of a Nomad, it's always nice to just let things settle down so you can begin to make sense of what the players are choosing to do. And this is the most interesting thing to observe. Initially, we've got Persians Persians for the Chinese team and Mayans for the Finnish team putting their TCs down in basically the same place. But the food economy here is just so much better for Zuppy. He should be able to get probably like 2 of these boars maybe if he takes them. Obviously, Lovcheng, if he has a scout sheep or something and realises that his opponent is there, let's look at his point of view, might come and steal the boars as well because he can easily get them. In fact, he hasn't seen them. He's literally just TC'd. He's seen gold and wood and basically just thought, right, I'll TC there and I'll rely on fish if I have to. But Zuppy has got a dream spot. He sees the gold, sees obviously the boars and the berries and the stones, so this is like a dream for him to drop his TC there. No surprise that he chose to do that. Max over here on the left, finding a nice spot with lots of sheep, deer, shorefish. And where is Pike? Pike is down here, and he's Vikings, and he's docked the middle, so he's not going to be a big faction grush from the outside, possibly, unless he goes and redocks outside. I think for Finland, I'd love to have Max down here on the left corner, because Pike is, if he stonewalls up here and controls the middle water, he basically then has all of this room to boom and controls all of these resources, and practically half of the gold on the map is behind Pike's base at this point. If you had Persians down here just abusing all of this stuff and doing the most ridiculous boom, that would be really powerful for kind of flooding paladins after a fast boom. But map control wise, just in general for Finland, it looks pretty nice because Zuppy can control a lot of this here, has better resources, access to resources compared to Lovcheng, and then Yo is kind of in the middle of everybody, very vulnerable to all of the Finnish players. And then Paladin's got a nice spot all to himself down here, lots of good resources, but he's not really close enough to truly threaten Zuppy from behind, and he's gonna face a battle with Pike to actually cross over and hurt Pike's base. They're gonna possibly contest control of the middle water, although it looks like Paladin docked outside. Pike was the only one to dock the middle, so Pike may end up having completely uncontested access to the middle in the end, or we may see one of the Chinese players drop some docks there to try and take Finland off it later on. But I think the decisive thing here is going to be the fact that Zuppy should get well ahead of Love Cheng due to just how much better his resources are. The fact that he's got the 3 boars, he's got berries literally touching his TC. Nice dock spot, can even take a shorefish close to the TC, and I wouldn't be surprised, considering this stone is here, to see him go for plumes. Love Cheng trying to lame this boar, but even if he kills it, like, Zuppy can still get a decent amount of the food from it. Zuppy's trying to steal the aggro and get it to lure towards the TC. He probably won't be able to, but you know, he can still send Feudals over there and get the food. It should be just out of range of the TC, possibly. I'm not sure. I think if 2 Feudals were there, that I don't think they should be in range at all. And that other ball will get towards the TC of Zuppy. So now Love Cheng should be well behind Zuppy, especially with Mayans being able to take the extra food from the boars. So just having a look at populations, everybody on more or less the same. The only thing, of course, is that Love Cheng, speed-wise, is boosted by the fact that Persians have that kind of work rate bonus. Getting slightly ahead in terms of total population because he's got a lot of fishing ships, but he's having to rely on those fishing ships quite heavily, whereas Zuppy won't be anywhere near as reliant on that. Pike just on 5 fishing ships in the middle for now. Gonna have a look at his scouting actually. Okay, that's Yo telling his teammates where player 6 TC. I was looking at 6 PTC and I was like, is he saying I'm going to go 6 TC? Boom, and then I realised he means P6 instead of 6P. Looks like Yo managed to get a good number of boars under his TC as mine, so he's not going to have any problems whatsoever. His dock is actually right in the southern part of the map, a long way from anyone else. Only Zuppy really in position to crush that quickly. If he so chooses, but be more likely to see him do more of an FC approach. To be honest, Zuppy even picking up another ball from somewhere down here, that's really great for him. I guess the only thing for Zuppy is that he does lack access to a gold. Oh, there's one down here that's not too far. Let's see if he sees it. But even so, like, if he goes up with a lot on stone, market blacksmith, he could sell stone initially and then secure some gold a little later. Pretty similar age up times for most of the players here. I'm trying to see who the odd one out is that hasn't clicked up. It's Blue, isn't it? So Love Cheng, predictably, with the lack of food that he actually had access to on the land, is going to be the one who's furthest away from clicking up to the feudal age. But he's not terribly far. But at this point, all he hasn't got any sheep or anything like that, so he's completely reliant on the fish boom. He's actually done a dock in the middle, trying to get onto a second dock and fish boom it up more. But this in total hasn't been enough to get him up to the feudal age at a comparable time to the other players. And he's going to be a long way behind Zuppy, which could spell trouble given the proximity of the TCs and the fact that Zuppy already looks like he's either going to go for the fast castle plumes approach, and he might even choose to do a tower as well, just to increase the nuisance value whilst he gets that castle and the plumes. Pike, meanwhile, looks like... Okay, these are sheep. I wondered if they were ships crawling the shore, but is he going to do any kind of even one galley on the middle just to see what's going on. Yeah, he's going to do a couple of galleys. I'm going to check his fog of war, see if he found that extra dock from Lovecheng. No, he didn't. It actually didn't stop just short of stonewalling off next to where the dock was. But he'll just do a couple of galleys to scout this lake and ultimately gain control of it. With the position that he has, I wouldn't be surprised to see him like do some galleys, try and take control of the middle water, and if he gets sole control of it, then switch into a sling after he's secured that area of water. Could work pretty well considering he's so far away from the other players. You know, Max, especially if he receives the sling, could protect him from Yo, and you know, if Pike stonewalls up this and controls the middle water, then Paladin will have a hard time actually threatening Pike. So wouldn't be surprised to see him transition into a sling, and the amount of stone walls that we're starting to see from him begin to give that away potentially. That is his intention. Up here, Paladin doing a galley, beginning to harass Max's fishing ships. But Pike has actually moved to the outside with his own ducks, and he's going to crush the outside as well, so he'll do a galley or two here, see that Lovecheng is on the middle water and actually take away that fish, and then he'll switch to primarily grushing on the outside and then maybe swinging later if he chooses to. But stone walls a good idea anyway, just so that he can fully concentrate on the grushing and be safe on land. And he's gonna move up and start to protect Max's fishing ship from Paladin. But given that he did his first dock in the middle and didn't immediately go to the outside, might be a little bit behind Paladin in terms of grushing, but equally Paladin's docks, like he put a dock up here, but then obviously his main base is in the south, so his reinforcements are coming from the bottom edge of the map, and ultimately given that Pike's coming from here, he should be able to overturn that deficit pretty quickly indeed. Yo up to the castle age, as is Zuppy, so those are the two Mayans players at pretty much exactly the same time, but whilst Yo will be facing off initially at least against the Max, who is already in the castle age, Zuppy, however, is further ahead of his opponent. Actually, Yinghua's castle age time is not that bad in the end. Interested to see if Zuppy collected enough stone to actually drop a castle, but it looks like if that was initially his plan, in which the number of villagers going to stone seemed to suggest, the fact that some galleys from Paladin appeared on his stone mine pushed him away from it, and doing a tower ultimately didn't actually help, and he's had to transfer down here to mine stone, which has bought Lovecheng some important room to breathe actually. If this castle had gone up as soon as Zuppy hit castle age, it could have been very, very difficult for Lovecheng and done a lot of damage to him, but Paladin grushing Zuppy's stone has really, really helped him in the end. Max doing knights, picking up just the one vill by the looks of it from Yo, but Yo's going to have his castle up, so it's going to be the Chinese team's Mayans player going to be doing the damage with plumes in the early castle age, and not Zuppy. Yo also adding in a fire on the outside to help Paladin lay claim to the water on the outside. Pike was doing pretty well grushing and keeping Max's fish booms safe at least, but Zuppy's fish has been completely eliminated at this point. Zuppy has spotted where Paladin's walls are by the looks of it. That's why they seem to be Xing. He did that outpost to see what was down there, realised his opponent is there, and is probably run down there to wall off himself. kind of bizarrely from the early game, the way things appeared in the early game, it's Zuppy now acting a little bit defensively, throwing up a wall to defend against mangonels from Lovecheng. I'm so surprised the way this has turned out, but I guess it was ultimately, it was just that vulnerability of the stone being on the shore. We did see the sling coming in there. Paladin is fully tributing Lovecheng, so actually Zuppy's gonna do well to hold on now. Actually, if Lovecheng just goes like full aggro against Zuppy, pushes him really fast, it's gonna be trouble, because not only did Zuppy have his plans interrupted, but the other thing is he doesn't have very far to run, because Paladin is down here and can potentially push him from both sides, although he is slinging, of course. So you know, he's got it. The main effect of that is simply that Paladin stops Zuppy from running. But interestingly, Zuppy, having gotten enough stone to make a castle, is not going to choose to use it to defend against Lovecheng, and instead he's going to do it here and try and break into Paladin, who he presumably realises is slinging to his teammates. Pike's managed to keep Max's fish boom completely safe. Yo pushing out here and taking good control of this area of the map. Max is pretty safe for now. Might see one or two of his villagers being picked off, but ultimately the main issue here is that he's been kind of surrounded and given a very small space to work with, and Yo has managed to lay claim to all of these resources that were in between the two of them for now. Looks like Paladin remassed galleys, or regrouped them to come over here and try and make a serious attempt to take down the fishing ships of Max once more. But Pike's here with basically the same number of galleys. Let's see if both players are on patrol. Yes, they are, so going to be a fairly even fight, although it looks like Pike might have slightly better numbers. In fact, I should just look at the dashboard, shouldn't I? We see 23 to 18, so presuming that most of the players' galleys are here, Pike with the better numbers, and actually Paladin is having to send a few from around here, so that one clearly going in favour of Pike, although he does have someone in the middle, so that does even the count somewhat. Still fairly passive on the frontier between Yo and Max. Yeah, like Yo's looking to raid where possible, but Persian Knights with +2 and Bloodlines able to take care of those pretty handily if they manage to catch up to them. And Max trying to apply in kind with a little bit of night raiding of his own, but nothing too meaningful yet. But interestingly, Zuppy presumably petarded through these walls, and now he's in with plumes, and that is dangerous for the Chinese team, because their slinger is now in some trouble. Paladin's going to try and hurriedly re-wall in the top left, which he's done there. The market seals him out there, but he's still open here, so he'll need to wall at the bottom. But even so, if he manages to get some... Oh, there's also a gap here. Even if he manages to get some of those walls up, the wood lines in particular will be vulnerable to plumed archer fire, so Paladin will be at least forced to retreat and gather resources elsewhere. And losing a couple of villagers here whilst attempting to get those all-important walls up. Monastery for Zuppy here. But that's mainly to defend against some knights from Lovecheng that have made it into his base. Unfortunately, Zuppy not quite getting that quick wall there, and that's going to be a whole bunch of dead villagers because they don't really have anywhere to run besides this castle, so at least 2-3 will go down as those knights give chase. Meanwhile, Zuppy's plumes sealed out, but not before having done good damage, taking down what looks like about 5 villagers of Paladin. Pike in the castle age and controlling the middle water handling, also doing very, very well on the outside here, actually getting onto all of the fishing of Paladin who remained in the feudal age. So Pike gone up to the castle age, will take complete control of the water on the outside now. And we also, I think I just saw coinage being done for him, so he'll transition into Castle Sling possibly whilst continuing to make sure he holds down the outside water control, also throwing up a university, so ballistics will come in for him. Yo meanwhile starting to get onto better numbers of plumes to be able to mount a serious push in combination with some of Love Cheng's knights. Max is on only 11 military, so gonna have a hard time defending against the combined forces of Yo and Love Cheng, and looks like he's taken some significant villager or military losses here. You can see a knight, but also some skeletons of foot units, so don't know whether those were villagers or some of Yo's plumes dying or what. That's unfortunate for the Max. This mangonel popping out of the siege workshop right on top of where the knights from Love Cheng were, and it should be a free mangonel kill for Love Cheng, but in the end those knights actually getting kind of trapped in by Max's knights and more or less being completely killed off due to all the free hits that they were taking. But now Yo is going to come back and may see the first really significant pressure being applied to Max now that the siege is being added in for Yo as well, and obviously with the two castles right on the edge of his base, even firing at 1 TC. Looks like Pike did a transport ship, which is pretty clever to sneak some plumes around from Zuppi, but Paladin's already right on top of the rewalling here, making another market quickly to fill the space. Just going to lose one Vil for now, so let's go back up here to see how this fight is progressing and whether the Max is managing to hold on. The answer would appear to be that he is losing ground and losing villagers here. His economy starting to suffer a little bit, and he's really being driven into the sea. I like the way Yo kind of encircled him a little bit with these castles, and the fact that they're pushing from a kind of different direction as well. It means that as they push from this like right hand side, it means Yo basically only has the left hand side to run into where there's not much space. And Finland calling GG already. Like Max is really struggling. Zuppi is, in the meantime, because we've been focusing down here and in the top left, Zuppi has been I mean, we saw some knights in and we saw Zuppi trying to do monk defense to some extent, but the walls were breached more heavily, and Love Cheng got in with both knights and siege and started to take down at one town centre and about to do another one. So really just all started to go wrong there for Finland, and it's something that I was surprised to see given their initial positions. I thought their Love Cheng would be in a lot of trouble against Zuppi, but as I said, like he seemed to be going for FC plumes, and the fact that he lost fish to Paladin's Grush and lost access to stone for a little while seemed to really slow him down there. Love Cheng then received Sling, which allowed him to get ahead of Zuppi and really start laying on the pressure, and Yo did a really nice job of just sort of taking away some resources from the Max, not giving him a lot of room to breathe, and then once Love Cheng was ready to help him out, starting to really inflict pain upon Max, basically starting to actually mount a solid push with some siege as well. So nice game for China there in a match where I initially thought that they were going to struggle. One or two things slightly fortuitous, but potentially, especially with what happened between Zuppi and Love Cheng, but ultimately really nicely played. Like they absolutely made the most of their advantages that they ended up having, and a nice job by Paladin in not succumbing to Zuppi, first of all breaking through it on the right hand side, but then also having his plumes transported around to the left hand side as well. Pretty outstanding stats for Pike on the water, but ultimately I think Zuppi's kill to death ratio, the fact that he was losing so much with Love Cheng being poised to wipe out more or less his entire economy, was one of the deciding factors there, along with the fact that Max was probably about to suffer a similar fate. Have a look at the difference in sling as well. Like Paladin's sling was so much stronger than Pike's in the end. Obviously Pike did a valuable job for his team in taking control of the water, but ultimately the extra resources going to Lovcheng enabled him to kind of roll over Zuppi pretty quickly. The games were played roughly a month ago, guys. They were ones that I had meant to stream for quite some time, but been casting some live tournament games, doing some other recs, and also it was about finding the right time to devote a big chunk of time to do it. And the other thing that happened was that China also played Brazil, and given that we had like 2 games from that series casted by Helene and Robo Live, like I decided to finish off the rest of those first before turning my attention to this series, even though it was played before the Brazil series. So we're going to see a game 5. I'm going to take a quick break before we head into the deciding game. I can really feel my voice starting to go after this long stream. So I'm just going to take a moment, but I'll be back in a couple of minutes and we'll see the deciding game then.